All right, and the recording is now going. So again, welcome to the June edition of the Army Credentialing Assistance Program's Vendor Information Session. We're going to go ahead and get started here. On our agenda today, we're going to talk about knowing the difference, just a recap for everybody. We're going to give you a brief little spiel on the Army Cool side of things. We're going to review the monthly approved vendor and credential review list. We're going to touch on overdue certifications of completion, and we're going to have program manager notes, show you some links and emails, have plenty of time for Q&A at the end, and then we will do a recap. So we'll go ahead and get started.
Russell,
Yes, ma'am.
I don't see your slides.
Uh-oh.
I see your desktop, not your slides. Here we
Let
go.
me know. Okay. All right. Sorry about that, everybody. All right. So again, there's the agenda. We're going to go ahead and get started from there. So knowing the difference, we hit on this a lot with our new vendors, but we find that even some of our current vendors need a refresher every once in a while, just so they understand the different parts of the program and how they fit into the grand scheme of things. So we hear a lot of people all the time refer to themselves as, "Oh, we want to be a part of Army Cool." Well, that's not necessarily the program that you are a part of per se. You are a, the Army Cool part of the house is a repository for all of the credentials that are listed for the soldiers to be able to review, select if they want to pursue, and then hopefully earn. So there's over 1,600 credentials currently on the Army Cool website. They will not see any vendor information on the Army Cool website. So we hear vendors, well, how do I get our stuff on Army Cool? It's not going to be there because you are a part of the next part, the Army Credentialing Assistance Program. Now, this is where the soldiers will go when they're ready to make their payments, submit their CA request. This is where you come in. You'll also use the Army credentialing side of the house as you're part of this program here. So all of your information is going to be uploaded and kept up to date in the Army Ignited system, which is the third system down there at the bottom. Soldiers will go in there, submit their CA request. They'll be able to pick vendors, they'll be able to pick the courses or exams that they're interested in pursuing, and then they'll be able to submit it from there. You, as a vendor, will be able to go in there, you'll be able to upload your information as far as your syllabus and your application. You'll be able to review what soldiers are currently coming over to your side for payment. Once they've been sent to the finance team, you'll be able to view those in the credentialing management tab on your list. And then you'll do all of your annual updates and everything else in the Army United system. So remember, Army Cool is just a repository where all the credentials are kept. Think of it as a huge library system. You go in there, you check out your credential, your book, you see, make sure that it's the one that you want. When you're ready to go in and do the payment part of it, you're going to switch over to the Army Ignited side. That's where you do all your payments and everything. That's where the soldiers will go and submit for their CA request. And then, of course, the Army Credentialing Assistance Program is the program that each and every one of you are a part of.
Also, I have a
So
question.
I'm sorry. Hey, Mr. Bauer, good morning.
Morning, Mr. Gray.
What can we answer for you, sir?
I apologize. It was my fault. It was the volume issue, but I got you. I got it turned up now.
Okay, no worries, no worries. So we threw a little blimp here on the the Army Cool page, since we were just speaking about that. I wanted to make sure that each and every one of you knew that this was the link to get to Army Cool. And we'll also have this at the end of the slide with the other links and emails that are listed there. But again, when you're looking to add a credential or training for a credential onto your application, this should be your first stop. The Army Cool webpage. You can go on there, you can look and see how your training matches up to the credential when you're putting your credentials into the Army Ignited platform. If the credential is not listed on Army Cool, then it should not be put into your application. So you want to go here first. You want to verify that all of your information matches up, that the credential is actually an approved credential on the Army Cool side, because what the soldiers see in Army Ignited when they get ready to transfer over are the same credentials that are on Army Cool. So if you're listing a credential and it's not on Army Cool and you happen to put it onto your application, then the soldier's not going to be able to see it. And then you'll be contacting us asking, well, why can't soldiers see what I'm listing? Because what you're listing is not approved on the Army Cool site. Also on the Army Cool site, this is where we pull the monthly approved vendor lists and the credential lists that have been added and removed. This is where we'll send you the link each month. This will take you directly to the Army Cool site. That way you can access that information and other great resources as well. So, what to do each month? Each month, we are going to send you the monthly approved vendors list, as well as the link for the credentials that have been added and removed. We need each and every one of you to make sure each month you go through, you look at this list, review it to make sure that the information is accurate. You need to confirm if the credentials that you're utilizing need to be removed off of your list if they've been removed from the Army Cool platform. And there could be a multitude of reasons why that occurs sometimes. It could be because the credential no longer meets standards or the credentialing body no longer wants their credential listed. It could be a whole slew of things. But if you see your credential on that removal list each month, you need to take that off of your application. That way, soldiers are not asking for something that they're not going to be able to receive anymore. Because all the only thing that's going to happen is their CA request is going to be rejected. If you see items that need to be added to your listing on the approved vendor list, i.e., you just added new credentials within the last month to your application, but you don't see it on there, make sure you put those items on there in green. And just as well, if you have individuals that have left your office or you have credentials that you see that need to be removed or that you're no longer offering, go ahead and mark those in red. So when we get the spread back from you, we know what to update on your behalf on the approved vendors list, and that will show up on the next month's update. Certificates of completion. Remember that it is the vendor's responsibility to update this upon course completion. Now that you have access to the credentialing management tab, you should be able, after you complete a course or you complete training with soldiers, you should be able to go directly into your credential management tab and upload their certificates of completion. Soldiers only have 10 business days to make sure that this information has been updated. So help them out so they're not getting hit with, hey, why isn't your information loaded? Or they're having to contact you asking you to upload their certificates of completion. Go ahead and make sure that the information is up to date and that you put it in there accordingly as soon as the course is complete. And remember that this is a responsibility that's outlined in the MOA that each of you signed. So please abide by that and help us out. Of course, this is the approved vendor list, like I was talking about. You see here the item listed in green is an item that's being added to this list. And then, of course, in red there, you have an individual. And again, this is just an example that would be removed from the list. So make sure you update that each month. Send it back to us just like you see here. Just take a snippet of your credentialing line, update your information, send it back over to us. That way we can have it updated and ready for the next month's release. Mr. Bauer, did you happen to have a question?
No, sir.
Oh, okay, your hand was still up. I was just trying to make sure. All right. And then, of course, the certificate of completion. Again, you're more than welcome to use your own version of a certificate of completion, but if you do not have one, or even if you have your own, you need to make sure that your certificate of completion lists the soldier's name, the course or exam that they took, the course start and end dates, your name, your vendor name, and the soldier's status, completed or failed, passed or failed, the signature from a representative of your company, and the date. The date is critical. I've seen a lot of certificates of completion come through and there's no date on there. So I'll go into the soldier's record when we see those and we'll remove that because we cannot verify that the soldier actually completed that on time. So you need to make sure that the date is in there. Make sure each of these items are on your list. If you need a copy of this, we'll be more than happy to send this out to you. Matter of fact, I'll send it out with a copy of the link for the video and the slides that we use today. So you'll have that as well if you want to use this copy. But if you have your own, just please make sure that your items list these minimal items. So before we go over to Mrs. Sweeney, do we have any questions real quick? Okay, we're looking good. So we're going to jump over to our program manager, Mrs. Sophia Sweeney, and get some program manager updates from her. Miss Sweeney, it's over to you.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. This is actually a pretty quick session, so that's great. Just can you move to the next slide, please? Thank you. So I just wanted to reiterate what Russell was talking about when it came to the certificate of completion upload. So again, I just want to make sure everyone understands that it's the vendor's responsibility to upload that certificate of completion unless you're selling a voucher and you don't get those results, right? So that only applies to some vendors who offer the voucher and the or like Pearson VUE, CompTIA, right? So that is something that you must upload because we've actually I've had some snow tickets where soldiers have asked, like, hey, I got this past my start date, or I'm sorry, past my end date hold on my account stating that the certificate of completion has not been updated. Well, that's the vendor's responsibility to get that in there. And you should be receiving, if you're the POC, and right now I think it's only going to the finance alternate POC, for some reason, but it's being fixed. That is something that's being fixed, but you should be CC'd on these emails that go to the soldier, letting them know that they're getting close to their end date. So a couple of things with that. If a soldier is close to their end date, but you know that they're not finished, and they know they're not finished, you can always recommend that they submit a snow ticket. And I've got that question in the chat box. They can submit a snow ticket to request an extension on their end date, okay? And if everything checks out, then we will grant the extension. Now, that doesn't mean you have to grant it. If you choose, if you say, nope, our rules are strict, we do not let you go past this date, well, then then that will be honored. We're not going to, you do not have to continue to allow them to continue if you don't have that as part of your rules, okay? But the other thing I want to mention about those snow tickets is the fact that it must come from the soldier. If you, the vendor, are sending in a request for an extension, it's going to be closed and it's not going to be honored. It must come specifically from the soldier, okay? Cannot come from the counselor or a vendor or anybody else. It has to come from the soldier. And if they don't, then unfortunately, should it pass that end date, and we get to that case to, review it for completion. If they didn't extend and there's nothing in there, we will reject that case and that soldier will be recouped. Okay. Another thing I want to talk about is the marketing. So there are still websites out there that are still showing the CA program is the Army Cool program. I know Russell went over that again this morning, but you need to look at your websites, please, and make adjustments and fix anything that says the Army Cool program for that's supposed to say Army CA program, right? I've offered before for you all to submit your link for me to review. I have no problem reviewing it and letting you know, what has to be changed or, or whatever, right? Or good to go, whatever the case may be, all right? Installation access. Let's see, can we also receive notification of an extension that has been submitted by the soldier? Unfortunately, no. You will see it in your queue, right? In your management queue, you'll be able to see that extension that's made, but we have no way to notify you of that extension. So unfortunately, you'll have to check your queue on that. Okay, so going back to installation access. So I want to make sure everyone understands installation access. If you are approached by a soldier to have, to give a class, or they want you to brief their unit, that must go through installation access, right? And that has to go through the ESO, who will determine whether this is possible, this can take place, or what have you. All right. Same thing with any type of group training, right? We have some vendors that offer like, there's so many soldiers from the same unit that are attending a course. It's fine, nothing's wrong with that as long as it's, not on the installation and nobody was coerced to do that course. Or let me see, another example would be like, it used to be a unit funded training. Now it's changed to everyone's requesting CA. All right. That can't, that's still, if it is something like that, it still must go through the ESO. All right. If your course is just offered out there online for everybody to see and multiple soldiers from the same unit happen to request CA for that, totally fine. No issues there. Just any type of group thing that took place at a unit, or any group briefings or unit briefings at a unit, or even if it's just like a webinar for a specific unit, that's an absolute no-go, okay? CA request deadlines for soldiers. Now, this will be posted here shortly. We are going to stop accepting any more FY22 CA requests on 31, well, 1 August is the cutoff, right? But that means we can receive CA requests up until 31 July, all day, 31 July, all the way up to midnight, we can accept CA requests. Come 1 August, there are no exceptions. We are not accepting any more FY22 CA requests, okay? And then I've gotten asked the question of, well, when can they start requesting FY23? And unfortunately, we don't have a hard date yet. It will probably be in the next fiscal year before a soldier can submit an FY23 CA request, okay? We have some changes that are taking place. I already sent out a message about, Army Ignited 2.0 type thing, right? So basically what's going to happen there, and please repeat the end date. 31 July is the last day we're going to accept CA requests. Okay, so all day 31 July, we'll accept CA requests for any start date that is in FY22. So the start date has to be on or before 30 September. Okay, so we're accepting CA requests until the end of 31 July. The start dates have to be before or on 30 September. Okay, I hope that everyone got that. And if somebody could just type that in the chat box, one of our teammates, please put that out in the chat. And then as far as upcoming changes to the process, there may be some changes in how the CA requests will take place. There may be changes to how you're going to input your information into Army Ignited. All of that will come up soon, but the bottom line is there are no dates yet for soldiers to submit FY23 CA requests. So I would tell you to be safe, classes should start, or, you know, if you want to provide quotes for something for FY23, I would absolutely recommend it be, I would recommend the start date be either the last week of December or in January. Okay, so that is what I can put out at this point. So do I have any questions? Please feel free to raise your hand if you have questions or put it in the chat. Okay, well, that was pretty easy. So, oh, I got a question. Sure, Josh. Go ahead, Josh. Mr. Atkinson, or I don't know if you're on mute still. No. Can you repeat the info about FY23 and terms and conditions, payments to vendors? All right, let's start with Matt's question while Josh can work through his mic. Okay, so Matt asked, where can we find Army Cool Ignited's term and conditions? So Matt, you're asking for the Army CA terms and conditions? Is that what you're asking for? Okay, CA. All right. So remember, see that we still have this. It's not Army Cool Ignited. It's Army CA program. Okay. Payments to vendors. So we don't have any terms and conditions outside of what is in the MOA. So if there is specific questions you might have, please feel free to ask or come online and I can answer your specific question. And let me see. Can you repeat the info about FY23? So as far as FY23 goes, we are not accepting any FY23 CA requests at this time. We have no hard start date yet for when soldiers can submit those CA requests. Usually we have, you know, or normally it's like, you know, the next in September they can start submitting. But at this point, with these upcoming changes to our processes, we are not able to give a date yet. It will be announced, it will be put out to all of you once we have that hard start date for accepting FY23 CA requests. And then you said, just to confirm, you were saying that the first class date students can request is late December. I'm just telling you, Josh, that to be safe, the best route is to have start dates in late, like the last week of December or the beginning of January. Perfect. Okay. No problem. Okay, so Matt, did you want to ask that question or do you have Mike?
Good morning, Sophia. So this is really from Mark Fabian from the PMI. He was looking for the question, how do we know when payments must be made from Army CA to vendors? Is there a time frame? He ran into a small issue or challenge with civilian payments. So that's his question, basically.
So the civilian process is a lot different than what our process is because they require, I mean, they don't pay for the most part until after 19%, much like tuition assistance. So CA, just know that we will always pay prior or on that start date. And unless somebody doesn't answer their question or answer finance that day, it could be the day after. But soldiers cannot start any CA requests until we make that payment, and we have up until that start date. Does that make sense, Matt?
No, that does. And as always, Sophia, great information today. You too, Russell. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other
Thank you.
questions? Okay, Nikki says, is the current Ignited system going to be down, not accessible starting August for updates and changes, or are the soldiers going to still have access through? Okay, that's a great question, Nikki. So the system is still going to be up and running for, vendors to upload their certificates of completion, soldiers to request C or extensions for the most part, right? So all of that stuff at this point, there's no changes to that. They just can't submit. They won't have the ability to submit a new CA request, okay? Hope that answered your question, Nikki. Perfect. And I also, I know you all knew about the little snafu with the National Guard and Reserve issues that they had, but all of that has been completed, and we have been processing and paying cases for National Guard and Reserve. Okay, so hopefully, I've received some snow tickets from soldiers asking about this, I don't have, do we have funds yet or whatever? And that was put out already through, or letting the soldiers know that the funds are available for National Guard and Reserve. Okay. And I think that is it for me, unless anyone else has any questions. Okay, back to you, Russell.
Thank you so much, Sophia. Greatly appreciate that. And just for each and every one of you, again, we'll send these slides out and we'll send out the link for the YouTube video as well at the completion of the sessions today. But just for your knowledge, here's some information, links, and emails that each and every one of you may want to keep handy. Of course, this is for the first one is for submitting snow tickets in your Army Ignited account, or you can go directly to the link there. If you can't submit a snow ticket, if you're having issues, there is our email link right there that you can reach out to us and we can get the snow ticket created for you. To locate the list of credentials, again, that goes to the Army Cool website right there. There's the link for that. The credentialing assistance page in Army Cool, which has a lot of great information for each and every one of you to utilize. I.e., we hear vendors sometime, well, I want to see what the soldier's process is. Well, you can see there the soldier process guide right there with the vendor process guide, and then all of the additional lists and everything that we send out to you each month are all right on the credentialing assistance tab. Guidelines on DoD logos. There's the link right there. If you're using the Army CA or the Army Cool or any of the other logos or even any of the other service logos, you might want to make sure that you've reviewed this and that you're operating accordingly. Installation access is to be done through a snow ticket. You can do that through Army Ignited. And then, of course, if you're working on your cage code, if you're not familiar with it, or you have a new individual who's new to the office and they're trying to understand what they're supposed to do to update their cage code, everything like that, we do not run the cage code process. That's done through sam.gov, and there's a link for it right there. All right. So, as Sophia said, this was a quick brief today, but just wanted to get some information out to each and every one of you. That way, you had the quick note and also give you an opportunity to ask questions. And I've got a question slide next. So, if you want to still ask questions, please hang by. But again, for a recap today, we went over knowing the difference between Army Cool, Army CA, and Army Ignited. That way, each and every one of you know what you should be pushing out there. Yes, you will definitely be given a copy of the slide deck today. So I will make sure each and every one of you get that, as well as with the video link from YouTube. We also went over the where you can find credentials on Army Cool to make sure your information is accurate before you place it onto your application. We talked about the monthly approved vendor and credential reviews. So what you need to do as far as updating that information and sending it back over to us so we can update it for the next month's release. Overdue certificates of completion, program manager notes from Mrs. Sweeney, links and emails, and of course, we're going to end it off here with a little Q&A if any of you happen to have questions that may have come up. So please feel free to come up on the net or type your message in the chat. And this time, the remainder of the time is dedicated strictly to you, the vendors, if you have extra questions and everything. So, ladies and gentlemen, go for it.
Mr. Gray, I did have a question. When CA first started, it was very clear that CA and career skills programs were separate. And at one point in time, I believe there was a memo put out that soldiers couldn't complete or use CA in their last 180 days. But I have a lot of soldiers that aren't using CSP, and I've seen some soldiers get approved with other programs during that 180 days. And I'm just looking for some clarification.
So
Talking about their last final 180 days.
Okay, so let me see if I understand your question right. You said prior to, I guess now, we were not paying for CSP program type courses, right? That still stands. We don't pay for CSP programs itself. If there is an exam that's not part of the CSP, then we can fund that exam. But as far as the last 180, can you repeat that part, please, Mark?
Right. There was a process member back in the very, very beginning that said that soldiers weren't authorized CA during the last 180 days. And I haven't seen anything clearly, but I also haven't seen anything new in policy or in the new policies that have come out that state that. And I've seen soldiers. I just want clarification. Can they take UCA within their last 180 days on contract as long as it's not for a CSP program?
They can absolutely use it all the way up until their ETS date. Yeah, that's not changed. It stayed the same. We just, like I said, it's just the actual program itself. And I think a lot of soldiers get confused in thinking that, oh, well, I'm in this program, so I can no longer use CA. Even if they're in a CSP program, they can still use CA towards something else if they wanted to. They can absolutely do that.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Let's see, we had a couple questions that just came up in the box. Ms. Shelley said, for clarity, if a soldier would like to submit a start a program December 30th, is there a date that the soldier can submit that ticket yet?
So Shelley, like I said before, we have not announced that date for any submissions, right? So you can submit, you can give them invoices if you'd like, but they're not going to be able to submit a CA request for that course until we announce that date. We will announce that hopefully, within the next month or two, but at this point we cannot say what date they can start submitting. And Siobhan asked, did you say that the service members of the National Guard can now utilize CA? Yes, they can absolutely use CA funding. We've been paying for and accepting all these National Guard and Reserve cases. Okay.
Do we have any other questions out there in the field this morning? See, Mr. Randy asked, how can we learn what type of mistakes a soldier is making on their applications so we can provide instructions on how to correctly submit an application so it's not rejected in the process?
So that's also a great question. So what we always recommend vendors to do when they're having these issues is to have the soldier go to the Army Cool CA page. And Russell, if you could pull that up on an Army Cool, that would be great. They can always download the soldier CA process guide, and that takes them through every everything you can think of. And as far as why they get rejected, I will tell you one of the biggest reasons they get rejected is because they fail to upload a quote that matches what is listed in Army Ignited. So if you can see, thank you, Russell, that's the actual Army Cool CA page. And then if they download that CA Soldier Process Guide, it actually has step-by-step for everything you can think of. Manual requests, regular requests, can't find a vendor, snow tickets, requests for extensions, how to withdraw. Everything is listed in there to include the policy information. So that's what I would recommend, Randy, is send them here so they can download, or even you can download it too, and you can kind of walk them through that process if you'd like. But one of the biggest reasons is that quote. And that I'm glad I brought up the quote, because actually the quote itself, we're still having issues with vendors providing a quote that matches what is listed in Army Ignited. So if a soldier's asking you for a quote for Army Ignited or Army CA, please make sure you go back into the system and see what it is that you have listed in there. Because if it doesn't look like that, if it's not itemized and you're listing exam prices and prices for the books, but you actually give it free in Army Ignited, we're going to reject it. Okay, so you have to make sure that quote matches what is listed in Army Ignited. It must be itemized, zeros on all these free items. Okay, hope that answered your question. Okay, so Nikki asked, great info today. Thank you. Do you have any hard start date in August for the new Army Ignited 2.0 updates? And how long do you expect this process to take? Just so we know how long the soldiers will not be able to submit CA requests. So again, soldiers, we have not announced the date for any FY23 CA requests. Okay, that will be announced later. Like I said, maybe in a month or two, we'll be able to announce the new date that they can submit CA requests. Okay, so I hope you get that. I'll post it again in the chat box because we have not announced that date. Okay, and then Randy says, do you have an example of how to make sure the quote match the Army Ignited system? So Randy, what I will tell you is the best way to do that is I'm not sure what you offer, but if you offered, and I'm just going to use PMP as example, if you offered PMP as an example, and you had the training, but then you gave them, you itemized books at a zero cost, and you also added a quote a exam voucher at zero cost, then we expect to have a quote that says PMP training, whatever the cost, $200, books zero, exam zero. And then the total price should be 200 if the total price, if that looks exactly that, if that is what you offer in Army Ignited, that is what the quote should look like. Does that make sense? Perfect, thank you. We would like to update our CA information on our homepage. Is there someone I can check with to make sure? Yes, so Jody, let me see. Let me just put in my email so you can send it that way. I will check websites and content so that, for accuracy if you'd like. For other questions about like the application, that kind of stuff, I'd ask that you please send it to the group email box. No problem. If we have a rolling start date because it's a self-paced program, how do we detail the start dates on the quote? It's okay if you don't necessarily have a start and end date, but what I do think you should have is an expiration date. on your quote, right? So if it's a rolling start date and they, they want to start it, I don't know, August 1st, right? If you should have an expiration date on that, because we have seen soldiers submit quotes from back in 2020. Okay, so you should have an expiration, if anything, on your quote. No problem. Any other questions?
I think we've answered the house today.
No.
Hold on. Will the portal be down after September 30th for a period of time?
So, Shelley, at this point, no, it should still be up and running for a little bit longer.
And like Sophia said, we hope to have all this information out to you within the next 2 months. That way you're aware of everything, the way everything's going to roll. So just be patient with us. We're going through the process as well, and we will let you guys know as soon as we get something firm. That way each and every one of you are up to date and you're aware of what to tell soldiers when they contact you. All right. Well, any last alibis? Perfect. Well, we are going to give you guys back your morning. Thank each and every one of you so much for joining us today. Oh, hold on.
Yeah.
We had one
If a quote is
quote
rejected,
is rejected due to this.
oh, sorry, from Army
Oh,
Ignited.
sorry, Sophia. Go ahead.
Oh, no problem. So if a quote's rejected due to missing something from Army Ignited, do we need to resubmit it to the soldier? Yes, but they would have to submit if a case gets rejected, that soldier has to submit a whole new CA request with a new date. Does that answer your question, Victoria? Perfect, thank you.
Perfect. Well, let me see. All right. Yep, we got that up there. So, if any of you would like to jump on to the afternoon session as well, we're going to be briefing again today at 1300 Eastern Standard Time. So you're more than welcome to jump on and join that one as well. We will definitely make sure that the slides, the YouTube link, and everything else has been released to each and every one of you. We have one more question in there from Shelley.
Yeah, so Shelley, I have 2 soldiers with pending payments and overdue access. Will these be funded? Yes. So if feel free to email me with those 2 soldiers. Most times, finance sends out emails to all the vendors letting them know that, hey, I've got these soldiers that we're trying to fund. And sometimes they don't necessarily get an answer right away. If you could please send me those 2 soldiers' names, that would be great, and we'll take care of it. Okay, Russell, sorry.
No problem. And I know we had a couple of vendors that might have jumped on at the back end here. If you would like, we will be hosting again at 1300 today. Today was kind of a short, quick brief to let you all know how what's going on, some hot topics that are going on right now. But if you would like to join us again at 1300 Eastern Standard Time, we would love to have you back then. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for what each and every one of you do for our soldiers. You have no idea how important it is of what you do for our soldiers and what you provide to them each and every day. We look forward to continue working with each and every one of you, and we hope that you have a wonderful day. Thanks from Army CA. We're out here.